I gazed at her, and it didn't take long for me to sense that she would be my adversary for the coming months, just like the others before her. Her name was Maya. She possessed a striking appearance, adorned with good looks and an incredible athletic physique. She clearly took excellent care of herself, but I was resolute in not allowing her to get close to my dad. You see, my father is wealthy. When I say wealthy, I mean he could effortlessly rent an entire island for a fortnight of relaxation. And no, he didn't inherit his wealth. He climbed the corporate ladder, starting as a humble salesman and eventually becoming a respected CEO with ownership of several companies. This is precisely why I'm extremely cautious when it comes to women who approach him. Gold diggers are a constant threat, lurking everywhere, and if I'm not vigilant, one of them might manage to seduce him and lay claim to a substantial portion of his fortune. Or worse yet, they might fall in love, get married, and potentially even force me out of the house. Oh, you might be wondering about my mom? She passed away when I was just 8 years old. Cancer had ravaged her body, discovered too late for effective treatment. By the time her illness was diagnosed, chemotherapy or any other intervention proved futile. Both Dad and I were utterly devastated by her loss. And now, here we stood. Dad had brought Maya into our lives. He seemed genuinely happy as he introduced her to me. "Hello, Andrew," he beamed. "Come meet Maya. She works in the fashion industry, and we might be partnering on a business venture." Maya greeted me with a friendly smile, saying, "Hi, Andrew. I've heard so much about you." "Nice to meet you," Maya greeted me with a friendly smile, but I offered no reciprocal gesture. Instead, I just stared at them both, a simmering disdain evident in my expression. So, Dad had already filled her in about me, huh? I thought to myself, envisioning a moment of Jojo, my dog, chasing and playfully nipping at her. Awkward silence hung in the air for a minute as I imagined my little revenge fantasy. "This is nice." Maya eventually broke the silence, sensing my discomfort. I mustered a fake smile and replied, "Oh, really? Nice to meet you too." She could tell I didn't particularly warm up to her, but she chose to remain silent. My dad stepped in to salvage the situation, saying, "I think Andrew is tired. We'll be in the office." With that, Dad and Maya left me alone in the living room. It was an unusual situation, as Dad had never brought anyone into our home before. Typically, I'd meet his acquaintances at his company or the parties he hosted for his employees, but not in our house. Not where he and Mom had once lived together. Anxiety welled up within me as I retreated to my room. I needed to find a way to push her away, just like I had with Dad's previous girlfriends. I used to sneak into Dad's room while he slept, unlock his phone with Mom's birthday as the password, and send hurtful messages to his partners, promptly erasing them afterward. I knew his password because it was Mom's birthday, of course. It had worked like a charm, leaving Dad baffled about the reasons behind his breakups. This game of sabotage continued until he caught me once. He was furious, accusing me of invading his privacy, and from that point on, he locked his room and his phone. Nevertheless, I wasn't one to back down easily. The next morning, I woke up and made my way to the kitchen, intending to whip up some pancakes for Dad and me. To my absolute shock, I found Maya there, sipping coffee. Had she spent the night? What on earth? Well, if it was war she wanted, it was war she'd get. I greeted her with a falsely cheerful "Oh, good morning. Would you like some pancakes?" She seemed surprised by my offer but agreed, saying, "Yeah, sure. Why not?" I began to prepare the pancakes, splitting the batter into 2 portions. The first batch, for Dad and me, was the usual delicious pancakes, but I added an excessive amount of salt to the second batch. I tasted it, and it was positively revolting. Dad entered the kitchen after a while, also taken aback by our presence there. I informed him that I'd be bringing breakfast to them. Suspicion flickered in his eyes, but he said nothing. I maintained a phony cheerful tone, telling them, "Go sit in the living room, I'll bring you breakfast." With that, I placed the pancakes on plates, alongside 3 glasses of orange juice. Maya's cup bore a subtle dusting of black pepper, a little taste of her own medicine, so she could comprehend the flavor of shoddiness. We began to eat, and I observed Maya's face contort into an expression of sheer disgust. She struggled as she forced down the pancakes, and when she sipped the orange juice, a fit of violent coughing overtook her. She came dangerously close to spitting out her drink. Inside, I couldn't help but revel in my little victory, though I maintained my poker face throughout. Dad, however, grew increasingly anxious and inquired, "Are you okay? Is there something wrong with the food?" I glanced at Maya, silently daring her to reveal the truth, but she remained silent, responding, "No, honey, it's just my stomach. I'm going to get ready." She excused herself from the table, leaving Dad and me to continue our meal. Internally, I was frustrated that she hadn't reacted more, but it only fueled my determination to up the ante and employ more significant tactics. From that moment forward, I made it a point to toy with Maya every opportunity one got. When Dad went out with her, I'd call him and feign illness. When she was at home, I'd blast loud music, accidentally spill drinks on her attire, or even annoy her with prying questions about her past relationships. And yet, she endured it all. Maya was as composed as ice, and I knew I had to switch to Plan B, stalking. If I wanted to rid her from our lives for good, I needed to unearth her secrets. So, one afternoon, I visited the company where she worked, waiting until her workday concluded. Afterward, I tailed her to her residence. To my astonishment, she lived in a lavish estate, complete with 2 luxury cars parked out front and an expansive pool. Could I have been too hasty in my judgment? Perhaps she wasn't a gold digger after all. Yet, as I watched her, I witnessed her alighting from the car alongside another man, one incredibly handsome and attractive. Gotcha, I thought. I needed to capture evidence of this impending infidelity and present it to my dad. While they continued conversing outside, I began to formulate a plan to gain entry into her house. Noticing that the back door to the kitchen stood ajar, I seized the opportunity to slip inside before Maya and her companion. Their house was nothing short of enormous. Emerging from the kitchen, I discovered a flight of stairs leading to the 2nd floor. Ascending them, I encountered a grand wooden door bearing Maya's name etched onto its surface. Ah, this must be her bedroom, I surmised, and decided to venture inside for a closer look. Maya's room resembled more of a royal suite than a typical bedroom. It featured an expansive queen-size bed, ornate rugs, and an enormous closet that begged the question of just how many clothes she owned. My exploration, however, was abruptly curtailed when I heard her approaching footsteps. Panic surged within me. In haste, I swung open the closet door and, fortunately, found a small nook on the bottom shelf where I could squeeze in and hide. I left the closet door slightly ajar, ready to document whatever transpired on my phone. As Maya and the attractive man entered the room, they continued their conversation. Then, to my surprise, she drew him close and embraced him tightly. Swiftly, I snapped 2 pictures, anticipating the unfolding drama. Yet, surprisingly, nothing of note occurred. Maya held him in her embrace for a moment, then handed him some papers from one of her drawers. The handsome man departed, leaving Maya alone in the room. She proceeded to change her shoes and donned pajamas. Afterwards, she opened a small cabinet that I soon realized was a refrigerator, extracting snacks and beverages. Oh, dear. Was she planning to spend the entire night here? Anxiety gnawed at me as I contemplated my exit strategy. I could only wait for her to leave. Time ticked on, and hunger and exhaustion gradually set in. Finally, around midnight, she extinguished the lights and retired to bed. I waited a bit longer, ensuring she was fast asleep, before carefully attempting to exit the closet as quietly as possible. But as I began to slide my right foot out, a faint clicking sound caught my attention. Who could it be? I held my breath, straining to listen as the clicking persisted. Tentatively, I retreated back into the closet, suspecting it might be Maya. Had she awoken for some reason? Yet, upon closer inspection, I realized the bedroom door remained open, and a shiver ran down my spine as I watched a man clad entirely in black step inside. The intruder surveyed the room, eventually positioning himself next to Maya's bed, where he lingered for a moment, scrutinizing her. Subsequently, he proceeded to open the drawers, extracting a box and systematically emptying its contents into a small bag retrieved from his jacket. The realization dawned on me: he was a robber. Panic set in, and perspiration dotted my forehead as I grappled with what to do. Should I call the police? My phone had died hours ago. Should I awaken Maya and her companion? Or maintain my composure until he departed? I had little time to deliberate, for the intruder was now approaching the very closet in which I concealed myself. As his hand reached for the closet door, I let out an ear-piercing scream: "Maya, wake up! There's a robber!" In a frantic bid to defend myself, I forcefully swung open the closet door and delivered a kick to the intruder's midsection, causing him to stumble and fall. In the blink of an eye, I sprinted toward Maya's bedside, awakening her with a mixture of alarm and bewilderment. I urgently implored her, "Get up. You're in danger." Maya roused from her slumber, though it was already too late to escape. The robber had regained his footing and was rapidly closing in on us. Angrily, he bore down upon us, and I spotted a nearby vase. Without hesitation, I grabbed it and hurled it toward him, but to my chagrin, it landed at his feet. Maya chided me, exclaiming, "Not that one, you idiot. It cost me 2,000. I couldn't believe the timing of her concern. Nevertheless, as the intruder advanced menacingly, Maya adopted a resolute demeanor. She positioned herself in front of me and instructed, in a stern tone, for me to stay behind her. Like a scene from an action movie, I watched in awe as Maya confronted the robber. It became evident that she possessed a mastery of martial arts, as she unleashed a flurry of punches and kicks, confronting the intruder with remarkable prowess. In a mere 2 minutes, he lay defeated, and she was atop his prone form. She glanced at me and calmly directed, "Fetch the duct tape, it's on the kitchen counter." Though filled with trepidation, I stammered, "Oh, yeah, coming," before dashing downstairs as quickly as my legs would carry me. I knew my way to the kitchen, having entered through the back door. Retrieving the tape, I rushed back to Maya's side, where she proceeded to secure the intruder's hands and legs, rendering him immobile. Following this, she promptly contacted the police, who arrived expeditiously. While Maya continued speaking with the authorities, my dad unexpectedly arrived, and upon seeing him, I burst into tears. Dad rushed over to me, his face etched with concern. "Where on earth have you been? I've been so worried. I called you 1,000 times, he exclaimed. My heart sank, expecting that he might ground me for my actions. Anxious and unsure of how to respond, I began to sweat nervously. However, just as I was about to stammer out an explanation, Maya's voice chimed in from behind me. She casually mentioned that she had spent the night with me, citing it as a girls' night in. I was taken aback but immensely grateful for her support. Dad, though, remained suspicious. He seemed unconvinced and asked again, "Are you sure? She didn't cause any trouble, did she?" Maya replied confidently, "Oh no. In fact, she saved my life. She spotted the intruder." Dad fell silent, seemingly at a loss for words. Maya left to deal with some matters involving the police, and I took the opportunity to approach Dad and apologize for my behavior. Tears welled up in my eyes as I confessed, "I'm sorry about everything, Dad. I just miss Mom so much." I broke down into tears once more. Dad enveloped me in a comforting hug, murmuring, "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." Later that night, as Dad and I returned home, I couldn't find peace until I sent Maya a heartfelt message expressing my apologies and gratitude for her actions. I realized that my clinginess to Dad stemmed from my loneliness, and I recognized the importance of allowing him to lead his life as he deserved. As time passed, Dad and Maya decided to get married, and I was preparing to head off to college. I found solace in focusing on my own future instead of dwelling on Dad's relationships. Oh, that handsome guy from earlier? It turned out he was Maya's ex, who had come to collect her divorce papers.